What I hope that people hear in my story and for their own lives is nothing is wasted. Okay, God, please do not talk, because if you speak, I'm just going to die right here.
What do you say to people who are kind of like combating that inner dialogue?
What if the voice inside of your head that's telling you can't is a liar? You know how they say there's a thin line between love and hate?
Yes.
I believe there's a thin line between what looks like crazy and the Holy Spirit. And I learned to follow the Holy Spirit even when it looked like crazy.
Is there anything for you that you come back to over and over again that you're like, if I could teach you not to do this, if I could save you from this, what would that be?
I would want to teach you that.
Oh, okay. Hard situations become catalysts for growth and change. And our guest today, Mignon Francois. No S.
Yeah.
See, sometimes my French comes out.
I love your accent on it.
Founder and CEO of the Cupcake Collection and author, has a thing or 10 to teach us just about that. She's the queen of betting on herself, of listening, and of following the calling. She's also a fellow Louisiana woman and just a delightful human being. So Mignon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I love the way you say my name.
Sometimes I have a Louisiana upbringing. I spoke French my whole life. So sometimes I have to catch myself like, wait, maybe I'm doing a little bit too much there.
Maybe I'm putting a little extra on it, a little lagniappe that doesn't need to go.
Yeah, but it is what it is, you know? I'm so glad you're here, and it's a delight to get to share your story with our audience, because if they don't know you, oh my gosh, get ready, strap in. And even if they do, I think it's going to be a delight for them to hear a few more nuggets from you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you really do have quite a story, and I want to start with kind of that dark moment you found yourself in, right? When you were a stay-at-home mom and you were kind of drowning in debt. You've talked about this, and realizing, like, what am I doing and how am I going to get out of this? And how you managed to turn those dark times into such light is where we're going to go with this. But if you wouldn't mind, can you just like give me a sense back to where you were and those moments where you were kind of not in a great spot and you thought that the kitchen would be the answer?
Yeah. I don't know that I am smart enough to say this was a strategy, a plan. Mm-hmm. I just was tired of being sick and tired. Mm-hmm. And I was listening on the radio, and the man on the radio was saying, you could get out of debt by having a bake sale or a garage sale. Well, the problem with the bake sale was that I didn't know how to bake, not even out of a box. And the problem with the garage sale is that we had sold everything we had to get to Nashville in the first place. So we have nothing that we can sell. So how am I supposed to do what I'm hearing people scream on the radio about? We're debt free. And I wanted that. That was the way I was raised by my parents, to be fiscally responsible. And I had found myself in just drowning in debt and brokenness, losing everything that we had, not having electricity on a regular basis, looking for money for field trips for my children, finding myself as the room mom in their schools just so I could go on field trips for free. When I just got on my knees and asked God for something for me that I could do to help just make the ends meet. And I heard him say through the man on the radio, go make cupcakes. At the time, cupcakes were a really big thing in the country. There were cupcake shops on every single corner, but Nashville hadn't met any yet. And so I was working 2 years every day, like it was a job, trying to build this cupcake brand and trying to learn how to bake at the same time.
I know, I was about to say, can we back up to the fact that you didn't even know how to bake when you decided you were going to bake cupcakes?
Yeah, but I had these two daughters who were really great at baking. They were baking every day after school. And I thought, well, they could handle a bake sale. Shortly into the process, my oldest daughter let me know, who was graduating from high school the following year, I'm really not interested in your little bakery idea. And without her, my youngest daughter is not interested. So I've got to learn how to bake, because I felt like I've told everyone that we're going to open a bakery here soon. It was my neighbor who knocked on the door and had a request. She wanted 600 cupcakes for all of her clients for the season.
Wow.
Now,
that's a lot of cupcakes.
When she knocks on the door, I'm sitting in the house in the dark because we don't have electricity. And I'm trying to manage whatever money I can make to get some kind of semblance of the light bill paid and get some groceries in the house when I realize all I have is $5 and I haven't fed the family. When she knocks on the door and asks me to make
600 cupcakes.
And I just remember standing there like, okay, God, why would you give me this opportunity when I have no money to take it, especially when I've been practicing at this thing all along? And I heard God say, but I feed birds and they don't toil and store up in barns. How much more will I take care of you who looks like me? So I was like, all right, fine, you better prove it. And so I went to the store with my $5. I bought everything I could buy with that $5. Now we're talking about a very different time from now. $5 in these kinds of ingredients went a lot further than they go today.
Yeah.
When I first started the cupcake collection, butter was 79 cents a pound. Now we're well into $4. So the $5 would
Wouldn't
just
have
been
gotten you very far. Yeah.
just been on some butter. But I bought all the ingredients I could buy with the $5 and turned it into 60 that day. I turned that 60 into 600 by the end of the week, and it's been that money that I had flipped for the last 15, almost 16 years.
Yeah. I think that's what I love so much about your story, and I'm sure those listening as well. I'm also a completely self-funded entrepreneur, and kind of can't believe I've gotten to where I've gotten doing that. But I think there's so much integrity in that journey of just being like, nope, I'm going to put $10 in and then I'm going to get 20 and then I'm going to take that 20 and I'm going to get 40. And then I'm just going to keep trusting that if I just keep putting this in, eventually there's going to be more than enough.
I wish that I thought that it was going to be what it is. Maybe if I thought that, I would have messed the whole thing up. I was just looking for field trip money.
That's great.
I was looking for senior dues money.
Yeah.
I was trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. So for me, I didn't really have big aspirations as to what this was actually going to do, except to help make the ends meet sometimes, not even all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's relatable and honest. And I think that's where a lot of people start when they decide, I'm going to go into business for myself and I'm going to start this business. I'm skilled at this, or I'm going to learn this. And I just want to live my life. They don't have these, I definitely didn't have grandiose. I joke and I'm like, if I had had grandiose visions of where I was going to go with my first company was a PR and branding agency. If I had known where that was going to go, I would have chosen a different name for the company because I chose a terrible name the first time. I just was just trying to get things up and running and trying to give myself a job was really all I was thinking at the time. So I think that's honest and not that unusual. But the ability for you to take it where you took it, that's what I want to get into.
Yeah, that's the flex, right?
That's the really good stuff, because you took the $5, you turn it into 60, and then eventually you've now built this multi-million-dollar empire of the cupcake collection, and you've got multiple locations. And I was reading about how you taught your sisters how to do it, and that's how we had the New Orleans location. So tell me a little bit about the journey. Like, what do you really think? Well, here, let me phrase it this way, because as you mentioned, there were a lot of cupcake companies on in the world at the time, but yours rose above the rest.
Yeah.
So aside from the fact that they are delicious, they are. My mom and I used to get them anytime she came into New Orleans to visit me. Aside from that, what do you think made you and your cupcakes different?
Yeah. I think that our focus on the ingredients, the quality, I think we gave out more hugs or just as many hugs as we gave out cupcakes. I think the fact that we learned our customers' names and what they were celebrating. I think that we were just real and relatable. You were coming literally into our family home, and then I was making something for you with love.
Yeah.
What I love about cake, and I believe that cake is my love language, is that cake takes you back to a time and place where somebody saw and celebrated you. Whenever I would go home to my grandmother's house, I could tell her I was coming and she would make me a cake. You can't just throw cake together. You have to put time into that. And I think people could taste the time. I think they could taste that our cake could stand alone without the icing, that the icing was literally the icing on the cake, right? And I think those things really did separate us. And even through the pandemic, we managed to maintain our same level of quality. And I watched my team get in cars and drive to other cities to try to get ingredients. And if we couldn't obtain the ingredients, we wouldn't make the flavor. We never skimped, we never cut. And we still to this day are a butter recipe. We didn't say, oh, well, we can't afford to do this anymore.
Yeah. So good. So good. And obviously the lesson there is honestly just like, you've heard it before, make a good product and the people will buy it. It's same thing of a service, provide a valuable service and the people will buy it. But you have me questioning, because I have a great grandmother who always made the coconut cake.
Yep.
My grandmother always made this famous, we call it the Conn's chocolate cake. She still makes it to this day. Well, she's 97 now, so now we don't get it as much, but I think we still got it like up to a year ago. And there's just like these cakes that are such an woven into the fabric of my being, of my childhood, right? Yeah. So what kind of cake did your mother or your grandmother make?
My grandmother was a coconut cake
Coconut cake.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And it is my favorite flavor. It's my favorite flavor at the Cupcake Collection. I feel like it's a sleeper. People just pass it by because they don't love the texture of coconut, but we toast the meat and use the milk of the coconut to season.
She is not kidding around, people.
We fill it with a cream, like a cream that we make for the inside of it. So it's filled. It's a sour cream coconut cake. And even my grandmother gave her nod to this cake, saying that I did the best at literally trying to mimic who she was.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So good. Your journey is filled with a lot of, I'm almost going to call them like trust falls. Like trust was such an integral part of you getting to where you've gotten. So tell me a little bit about those moments of trust and really just like the impact you believe it's had on your life.
I think the whole journey of building the Cupcake Collection was about trusting. I remember I was being awakened at 3:17 every morning. And I thought it was to check the stove to make sure that the doors were locked, make sure my children were breathing. But one night I decided to turn on the television. And to me, television, PBS during fundraising is the best television. Either that or February for Black History Month. To me, the best programming you can get on PBS. And there was a man on there and he said, I later learned it was Wayne Dyer. The morning breeze has something to tell you. Do not go back to sleep. Wow. And I was like, that's weird. He's literally looking into my house right now. And he said it again. I wanted him off of my TV at that point because I'm like, I don't know anything about the morning breeze talking. Then he says, God is trying to speak to you, and this is the only time you'll be silent enough to listen.
Oh my gosh.
Show up, meet him, and find out what he has to say. And so I remember going to my first meetup with God at 3:00 in the morning. It was always 3:17. Wow. I'd roll over and look at the clock, 3:17 every single time. So I knew there was a divine appointment that I was being summoned to. And I remember showing up for my first meetup, knowing what I was coming for. And I remember saying to God, okay, God, please do not talk, because if you speak, I'm just going to die right here. But please tell me whatever it is that you have to say. And I just remember getting my first download there. I wrote down everything I learned, everything I heard, everything I read in those wee hours of the morning. There was a Bible sitting underneath the coffee table, and I pulled it out and I just plopped it into my lap and let it fall open. Fell open to chapter 3. I was like, well, maybe this means something. Let's look for verse 17. I got my first indication that God loved me and he was about to show me.
Wow.
For me, being a child who never felt good enough, who never felt wanted, loved, pretty, I lived under the middle child syndrome. This was a pivotal time for me, for God himself to pluck me out of bed and say, sit here in this chair and let me show you how much I love you, that I'm going to give you something that you can do, something that you can use. Because stay-at-home moms are not celebrated.
Right.
Stay-at-home moms are generally not seen. And I was just grinding for my life. I was taking care of my then husband. I was taking care of my children and what they needed, shuffling them back and forth to whatever sports that they were in or whatever careers they were trying to create. And what was mine? There was nothing that belonged to me. And so God was literally picking me out and saying, I see you. I've called you by name. You are mine, and I have a plan and a purpose for your life. It was there that the Cupcake Collection was born. Everything that I needed for it, the colors, the logo, what I would sell, how I would make it. And I started practicing recipes. What I hope that people hear in my story and for their own lives is nothing is wasted. I had been a pre-med student who couldn't apply the science to the body. I was flunking out of classes. I was in danger of losing my scholarship and being kicked out of school. But here I was 17 years later in my kitchen with a spoken recipe from my grandmother. I was able to look at what she said and say, oh my goodness, this is chemistry. This is what they meant. This is balancing equations. This is chemical reactions. And I had this huge aha that allowed me to begin to write my first successful recipes. And now everything that you experience at the Cupcake Collection is mine. And there has been no recipe that I haven't been able to make from scratch.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Have you read the book Lessons in Chemistry?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Love it.
Good.
There's a movie or a series
There
or
is?
something
Oh, thank
coming.
goodness.
Yes, I'm so excited
As you're
about it.
talking, I'm just like picturing that character because she's also in science and takes her scientific knowledge into the kitchen. And anyway,
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm
for
so
you.
excited about it. It's a series or a movie.
Okay,
Something
good.
is coming.
Good, because
I have read it.
It's also such an empowering story for women because she's coming up through ages when the patriarchy was very much alive and well. And so I love that. And yeah, so you just really, in so many instances, obviously you've just trusted. Every time there was a calling, you were just like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's so inspiring. And I know so many people struggle with that concept of, really? I'm gonna trust this? Like, what if I fall flat on my face? Like, what if it doesn't work out?
Yeah.
What do you say to people who are kind of like combating that inner dialogue?
What if the voice inside of your head that's telling you can't is a liar? What if everything that you're thinking about was never your idea in the first place, but really you were being asked to collaborate with God, that somebody else could do it, anybody could be called to it, but you've been chosen for it? What if you couldn't fail because failure in one season is favor in the season that's coming. Yeah. So even if it looked like you failed, you don't know that what's coming around the corner is favor that makes you a winner. There's a Bible verse that says it's not over until you've won. So the very fact that you haven't crossed that finish line, you haven't gotten that gold medal, you haven't reached the pinnacle is an indication that the race isn't finished.
Yeah. So good. I know you also abide by this concept of following your spirit. Mm-hmm. Can you share a little bit about how that has impacted your journey?
Yeah, it goes back to that 3:17 time in the mornings. I did not know how to bake, but my guts would tell me, turn on the TV. Yeah. And there's Wayne Dyer saying, do not go back to sleep. When you wake up tomorrow morning, put your feet on the floor and show up to find out what God is trying to say. It would be driving down the street and I'd turn on the radio and there would be, I don't know, Martha Stewart talking about chocolate or, the barefoot contessa. Like it would be a billboard would come up that said, have you ever tried milk? It doesn't, you know what I mean? It was little things like that would say, God knows you hate traffic, Mignon. So he's going to say, you should turn left right now. And you're like, I'm going to turn right. And you land smack dab in the middle of traffic. Like those were the little lessons, the little inklings in my gut that would say, or pull back and wait, or push forward and try, even when it looked like crazy. And I believe that there is a really thin line. You know how they say there's a thin line between love and hate?
Yes.
I believe there's a thin line between what looks like crazy and the Holy Spirit. And I learned to follow the Holy Spirit even when it looked like crazy.
That's so good. I mean, it's the definition of faith, right?
Yeah, amen. Yeah.
I hear so much in your story that points back to this concept of listening. Mm-hmm. And you're clearly really good at it. Mm-hmm. And when I think about listening, I've been told by several people over the years that I'm an excellent listener, and I do think it's something I've gotten better at over time. But I realize that it's such a valuable skill. And I also realize how important it is once you're in a leadership position to be a really great listener. Mm-hmm. So I want to know, what's it like to work for Mignon? Like, how does that weave its way into your leadership and your team dynamics? And I want to know a little bit about the culture at the Cupcake Collection.
To work for Mignon is a little chaotic. I always say, I will bring you my chaos. I teach my team that I'm not their boss, I'm their client. And that it is them who is telling me what needs to happen. When you serve from that space, you serve from a space of ownership. They understand that I am never going to fire them. Right. I can just take my business somewhere else. Right? So they work from an understanding of ownership of their own labor. Okay. They also know that I'm their biggest cheerleader, that I want to hold the ladder of success for them so that they can safely climb. I know they won't always all be with me always, but I want to make space for them to grow and to become whatever it is that they want to be. There's a couple of them that I'm holding really close, like, you can never leave, don't leave. But I think working for me looks like giving them the space to be whatever their calling is. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. Ask 3 people before you ask me. Yeah. Bring me the solution and then let's say, okay, let's do that or let's tweak that. Yeah. But I think working with me is like having a conversation about, or, a collaboration about how we're going to move forward, because I believe that collaboration is the new competition.
Yeah. So many good nuggets there, and such a high example of what a good leader is, in my opinion.
Well, thank you.
But you didn't just become that overnight. So tell me what was it like for you as the business grew? And what we know to be true is as your business grows, your role evolves, right? You started off making the recipes in your home, and then eventually moving it out of your home. And as the business grows and your role evolves, not everyone survives that evolution, so to speak, for one reason or another, oftentimes because they don't know how to become that humble. They don't know how to become the collaborator. So what do you think helped you? Can you credit that to anything? Did you have moments where you stumbled?
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. I didn't always make it look good, but I was never afraid to ask questions. I was never afraid to ask how. When I entered into a room, I never felt like, oh, I belonged here. I was grateful to be there. And I always was learning. There is a word that I picked up reading the story of Ruth and Naomi. And the reason why Ruth ends up being a very wealthy woman is because she's gleaning in the pasture. She's picking up what's being left on the ground. And I was never afraid to pick up what somebody else put down. And I think that has come back to serve me really well. I've never been afraid to ask questions. I've never been afraid to be inclusive of other people. I've never been too good for anybody else. I've never been too high up for you to come and approach me. I've always been willing to give back. And I believe that when you keep your hand open, it leaves room for you to lose some stuff, but it also leaves room for you to receive from God. And I believe that has been worth its weight in gold for me.
I have no words because that's just so good. Yeah.
Amen.
Open hands, open heart. What would you say if you had to kind of like maybe boil down to what, I know you do a lot of mentorship and guidance for budding entrepreneurs in different roles and different different community aspects. Is there anything that you're like, I want you to know this. I want to, because I always joke, I'm like, what I do now as a business coach is try to help you avoid some of the stumbling blocks, but also there's going to be some that you have to experience those on your own. But if I can save you from a little bit of time and trouble and wasted dollars, then I'll feel like my job was well done. Is there anything for you that you come back to over and over again that you're like, if I could teach you not to do this, if I could save you from this, what would that be?
I would want to teach you that all you have is all you need to get from where you are to where it is that you want to be. We often think that we need big degrees, we need big buildings, we need big teams, we need a bunch of money, when all you have already in your possession is all you need to get you started on the journey from where you are to where you want to be. I started with $5. A few ingredients that I had inventoried in my house, and what other extras I needed to go grab from the Kroger on Rosa Parks and Monroe Street, and built an entire brand and a legacy on that one $5 investment that is now feeding me over and over again, not only feeding me, but feeding the people who I'm connected to that are connected to me. And I just want people to know, it wasn't money. It wasn't knowledge in the business. It wasn't a background in the industry. It wasn't a skill set. It wasn't credit, because I had none of those things, including the house where the bakery exists today, our flagship, our original store. I was losing that to foreclosure sale on the day that the store opened. Wow. And so we opened on November 9th. That house was going to go up for auction in December. But I believed that if God is who he says he is, he can do what he says he can do. And I wanted to test it and see if it was real. Yeah. And here I am. We turned 16 this year, and we own the house. I believe that house has been a treasure box for me in so many ways. I learned that being the lender meant ownership in that house. And I found that there was money in the bricks, that I could lend to myself. Yeah. And so there's so much I learned about business, so much I learned about home ownership and equity, and then teaching that to other people. Legacy. I just want, when my grandchildren walk into a room, for them to say, my grandmother was Mignon Francois. And I want that to matter. I want that to matter for them and for the people who they come in contact with.
Well, it definitely already matters for them. That much I can say with pretty assured. It's really, you're just such a walking embodiment of, I think, like when purity and heart and drive and grit all come together, and it's just like, ta-da! This is what can happen. This is the legacy you get to leave behind. This is the impact you get to make. And I know there's so many people listening that want to make a difference in the world. They don't want to be forgotten. Nobody wants to be forgotten. It's a human desire. As you mentioned, even with the cake, like it makes you feel seen at a young age, like it's your birthday or whatever it might be. And I think you've just done such an incredible job of every ounce of you being that.
Thank you.
Yes, it's such an honor to get to hear more about your story and soak up these nuggets of wisdom. Around here, we use the phrase "this or more" quite a bit. It's the name of the podcast, obviously, but it started because a lot of my clients would have these successful moments in their journeys. And every time something really great would happen, that upper limit would come into the equation. And if you're not familiar with that, it's really just like something in your soul that goes, oh, maybe I'm not worthy of this. Maybe I can't have more than this. And it would play out with phrases like, what if it all goes away tomorrow? What if they withdraw the contract? What if X, Y, Z? These like limiting beliefs. And I would respond to them and I would say, it's this or more. It's this or more that's in store for you. Wherever we are today, it's this or more tomorrow. And it became just this like, little current that we would all say to one another. And so here we are, right, with the podcast under this name. So I would love to know when I say like it's this or more, what do you feel like is this or more in your future? What do you think's next?
Well, this is what I love about your podcast is the name. When I saw this or more, I was reminded of a statement that Priscilla Shirer made. I absolutely adore this human being. And she taught that whenever she prays, she would say, God, grant me this or something better. Leaving room for God's imagination to be included in her request. And so when I saw the name of the podcast, it brought me straight back to that place. God, it's this or it's more, because all things work together for the good of them who love God and are called according to his purpose, which means that all things, all the time, are working out for me, no matter what it looks like right now. No matter what it might be right now, this is going to turn out for my good. And until it's good, it ain't over. And that's what this or more means to me.
I love that. And, obviously you're going to continue to make an impact and leave a legacy with cupcakes. And you also have your book that I think came out last year, if I'm not mistaken. What anything else on your bucket list?
Oh my gosh, I need to write a bucket list for myself. World domination in cake, maybe. I don't know. We ship our cupcakes nationwide through our partnership with FedEx, and that has been a dream come true for me. Even to be a face for FedEx last year is their small business grant winner for the year. And the audiobook is coming out this year. So I'm excited for people to get to hear my voice and my heart.
I was going to say, are you going to get to do the audio?
Yeah, I read it myself.
Okay.
So that and this creating a course for other people. The name of the book is Made from Scratch, Finding Success Without a Recipe. Well, while I didn't have a recipe handed to me for success, there is a recipe that exists for success. And so I'm just now unlocking that for other stay-at-home moms, other women, other people who might feel disenfranchised or not good enough like I felt, to know that you have purpose, you have value. Everything you have inside of you is all you need to get you from where you are to where you want to be. And so I'm just trying to unlock for other people, what is it that you have in your house? There are so many biblical stories where God tells someone to take ingredients and make something with it. And I believe that our fingerprints are a signature stamp from God, calling you an individual masterpiece, one of a kind, unique creation. And when we put our hands to do work, we're collaborating with the Creator himself to make something that will be useful in the world. And I just want to be able to tell other women who are just like me, that's a lie that you don't have what it takes, that it's a lie that you have to get more money, that it's a lie that you have to wait until your children are grown and gone out of the house. You can start right now with what you have to get from where you are to where you want to be. And that's, I feel like, the calling on my life.
Yes, indeed. So good. If you're listening and you're at all inspired, I don't know how you can't be. Do yourself a favor. Go order some cupcakes. As she just said, they ship internationally. Go buy the book, Made from Scratch, Finding Success Without a Recipe. Mignon, tell everybody how else they can find you.
Yes, so they can find me on mignonfrancois.com, where they can find how to catch me speaking around the country and being involved in some podcasts just like this one. And then on thecupcakecollection.com. And then we're the Cupcake Collection on all social platforms.
I love it. We'll put it all in the show notes, including a link to get the book and buy the cupcakes. I can't thank you enough for being here and giving everybody the pep talk that no one knew they needed, but they all needed. You're such a delight. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. From one Louisiana girl to the next.
We gotta take up space. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.